Welcome to Enlightened Abroad, the podcast, with Derek Stroud.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 16 of Enlightened Abroad. I started writing these intros and I went through a phase of I want to tell people things about the world that are pissing me off or things I find interesting. And I don't really want to do that anymore. But I really like this Buttigeg guy, man. He just seems like the anti-Trump. And I love his message. He speaks 7 languages. He's gay. He's proud. And he's brilliant. The guy makes so much sense. Unfortunately, I don't think he has a chance because I don't think America's that evolved yet. But man, this guy is a quality candidate. And that's all I'll say about that. So episode 16 is going to feature one of the coolest ladies living in Dubai. Her name is Rana. She's an expat of 20 years. She's a yoga teacher. She is very open about her life path and her healing experiences and also, her shortcomings. She's a wonderful, open soul. She has a beautiful voice. She's a beautiful person and a natural conversationalist. So we go through her hypnotherapy session. In the beginning, we kind of hit it hard and it's a bit heavy, but then we go back to her story and how she is Palestinian but grew up in Kuwait and was actually born an expat. She never actually had a nationality there because she wasn't allowed to be a citizen. So she moved to the US and she had the Gulf War hit and she was sort of through an identity crisis. She landed in Dubai, the land of expats, and she is she went through an amazing journey and she's still figuring it out. And like I said, quite humble. I took her yoga class and she's just a wonderful spirit. Can't say enough about her. And I'm so lucky that she was willing to speak to me. I hope you enjoy this episode with Rana as much as I did. And I can only say Namaste, Palestine. Enjoy.
And now, please enjoy the show.
Rana, so welcome to Enlightened Abroad.
Thank you.
This is the studio.
Thank you. It's awesome.
It's so cool, right?
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'm so glad you are here. It was great. I told you on the phone, I think I made a list.
Yeah.
And I thought about you because we met through Ryan.
Right.
Did you know Ryan was number 6 on the show?
I saw the list of who you've interviewed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the idea was like, I'll do Dubai Diaries.
Yeah.
And I'll interview interesting people I've met here.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I made a list. And I thought, oh, Rana, I didn't know you. I know you better now, but at that point, I didn't know you. I met you once or twice and heard about you. And I just thought, there's something about you. I want to just talk to you more. So
awesome.
It's a good excuse to talk.
It's awesome.
And then it turns out you are Sarah's very good friend.
Yes.
So you came to this through Sara.
Yeah.
And it's all coming back.
And we talked about you today, by the way.
You did?
Yeah. And she was like, oh, he's awesome. You're so going to love doing this podcast with him.
Mm.
Yeah.
She's awesome too because we had...
peoples.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good people here. And so we share the hypnotherapy session with Sara. Mm. What was your experience doing that?
She rocked my world.
Yeah.
She rocked my world. Starting with the aura photography and the things that she said were so, so spot on. And then after the hypno transition session, initially she had asked, why are you here? And I said, there's a blockage around my mom. And so during the session, she took me into the interesting thing, and this is what I said to her, I said, I don't remember a lot of things in my life. For some reason, I have big blanks, but I had an extremely happy childhood, very loving family, especially very loving mom. Long story short, she takes me on this hypno transition thing, and I come out of that like, whoa, okay, there's a lot going on around my mom that needs to be dealt with. And she really brought that to life. And then for the rest of the year, I did so much work around working with the mother wound. That's a big energetic issue that a lot of people carry around. And it only really hit me in my early 40s. But here I am in my late 40s, having resolved it, but realized what I just got out of. But that all started with Sara.
What does that mean, mother wound?
Wound. A lot of us have a very interesting dynamic with our moms. The mother-child relationship is extremely special. How that manifests in somebody's childhood has a massive effect on how they look at things throughout their lives. And sometimes, as is my case, I didn't have an abusive mom. I didn't have a jealous, vindictive mom. I had the exact opposite. I had an angel of a mother. And whenever I refer to her, I worship the ground she walks on. And she was extremely giving and generous and loving and all of that good stuff. But I realized only when I got, as being the eldest as well, that came with a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure that I didn't really feel when I was younger. And it all came to head when I was in my early 40s. So dealing with the mother wound is that dynamic of a situation with your mom that once you deal with, realize has been an issue pertaining to a lot of other areas of your life.
Yeah. It sounds like, because when you say wound, it sounds like it's like a big
it runs
pain,
deep.
but you said you had a good experience.
I had a great experience with her, but the wound was very painful.
Really?
Yeah, I realized the baggage I was carrying around my mom was super, super heavy.
We're getting like right into it.
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
getting right into it. I know. So feel free. You take control.
No, that's
we can
fine.
always come back.
But so this all came up with Sara. I think it's a good place to start because
it is.
It's our common connection now.
Yes.
Because that's why you're here, is because
yes,
you found the podcast through Sara.
Yes,
she's your friend.
Yes.
So tell me about the session then. We don't have to go into the mother wound like so deep, but like what was the process for you? Just sort of like logistically, technically, like how did it go? What did she do?
We started with the aura photography, and she hit on some stuff very, very on point. And then she took me into...
So I'll stop only to ask like certain things.
Yeah.
Because the goal of this show is to make it accessible for people who aren't into this healing world.
Awesome.
So when you say things like aura photography, I know what that is because I did it, but maybe... Right. So what is aura photography?
Well, it's... As we all have an energetic magnetic field around us, we can... I mean, Sara explained it perfectly in her podcast. And when she was explaining it, I was thinking, okay, I need to memorize how to explain this because she explains it so perfectly.
Did she? I don't remember.
She did.
Oh.
Yeah. And she said something about we have an energy field around us, and based on our internal energies, our chakras, our balances and imbalances, as everything is a vibration, it affects the vibration of this field around you. And you can capture that with some specific software. She takes a picture with a very basic camera, and there's software that translates those vibrations into colors.
Right.
And with that, she can tell you what's going on inside of you. There's a lot of blue, there's not enough blue, there's a lot of purple, this is big, this is small, this is clogged, this is... So she can tell you you're blocked in your throat, you're not expressing yourself, or your sacral chakra is all out of whack, or, yeah.
Guess which one was blocked on me?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, so she gave me, do you remember what your reading was?
I remember her saying, and I get this every time I go for any kind of anything, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's anything where I need to get a diagnosis of some sort, that I'm a very good communicator. So my throat chakra is like that. But then there were blockages all around my throat chakra saying, you express yourself very well and you're a good communicator, but you're holding back, and it's causing these little, they look like tumors. So you need to beware. You need to clear the throat. You need to say what you have to say. Heart was super open. She said, I see tears in your eyes. I was going through an emotional, it was like, something's going on. You need to tell me what to do with it,
How long ago was that?
This was in end of 2017.
Oh, okay.
because in the session we did the aura photography. Then she took me through the hypnosis. And yeah, the process was very much, we went deep. Like you explained, I think yours was, you go into a basement and what do you see and blah, blah, blah. And then she takes you back out and who's this person? And it's your mom. What do you want to say to her? Da-da-dee-da-da. So that was very emotional for me. I came out of that at the very, very end. I welled up and the tears just started streaming. Whoops, sorry.
It's okay.
And then I sat up and really I just bawled for a while. And it was so therapeutic. It was so cathartic. And I'm all about, I'm not all about crying. I'm all for crying.
Mm-hmm.
I never hold back if I need to cry, because
okay.
crying is just like, let it go. It needs to come out. And crying to me is therapeutic. So we did that. And then we got into a long conversation. That's what dragged our session into, I think we were there for 3.5, almost 4 hours.
Wow.
Because we got to talk and we connected like instantly. And it was just immediate love.
Yeah.
And I came out with a very clear understanding that this was my time to cord cutting. You've heard of cord cutting with my family. And that's not to say that I don't still worship the ground they all walk on, but I found peace in being able to say no, and being able to not put them first, and being able to draw limits, and being able to, and it feels liberating.
Wow.
Liberating. I confronted my mom, the real full on, we need to sit down and have a talk.
Okay.
Just this past December, I was in Cyprus and...
If it gets too hot, tell me.
No, I'm very okay.
You like this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I like it warm. I don't like AC.
I don't like AC either.
Okay.
But yeah.
If you get hot, you can turn it on.
No, I don't want it on.
Okay, I'm good. Then we're good.
I don't ever have it on.
Okay.
I just put it on for people to come here.
No,
because...
I prefer it like this. Look, my feet are still cold. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you confronted
so I
mom?
confronted my mom finally in December, and it was absolutely beautiful. But but things had been building throughout the year where I was slowly kind of just saying, okay, back off. I had a very happy childhood, but the baggage I realized that I'm carrying at this stage of my life is all the baggage that I'm carrying with me, not just from my family, but from my lineage.
It's so funny because the episode that just came out today is Family Constellation Lady.
Okay.
I don't know if you had a chance.
I haven't done that.
You should check out that episode next time you have a nice drive.
Okay.
Her name's May-Britt.
Okay.
And she does that as well. We talked about that.
Yes.
So, and her thing is, yes, you carry 7 generations back, and then you project 7 generations forward based on what is happening.
And I'm realizing that showing up for me much more in my day to day. She brought things to light that were very obvious for me to see. I would have reactions to things, and for the first time, I'm aware that, wait a minute, why? Okay, now I know where this is coming from. This is not me. Me would want to walk away from this very peacefully, but something in me is getting stirred. Where is that coming from? That's not me. That's my mom. That's my grandmother. That's the Palestinians. Oh my God, that's a whole...
Okay, we have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that we talk about this now. Okay. I love this stuff. I could talk about it forever. It just fascinates me that there's something out there, right? That could benefit humankind.
Yeah.
I mean, if everyone, maybe not everyone needs to have this kind of journey, but if people who are suffering and then inflicting pain on others because of this wound or whatever that happened. Yeah. And like you said, it doesn't have to be like an abuse situation.
Right.
It could just be a generational thing that you're carrying.
Right.
And if we could get free of this,
yes,
the world would be a fucking awesome place.
Yeah.
And probably a lot less wars, a lot less conflict, a lot less, destroying the planet.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And it's like.
But there's a lot of,
there's a lot more than that.
It's a lot more than that. And then there's a lot of, we have to say that the vast majority of the population, although there is a much bigger movement now towards more openness and awareness and consciousness and all of that good stuff, but the vast majority of the population isn't there yet. Yeah. But it's happening. People are becoming much more aware. Like you said, there's not a conversation with any new person I meet these days that doesn't somehow veer off into a conversation about spirituality or
Well, you have that thing. So to take me back to Europe, because you have this thing that kind of says spiritual person. Sarah's been posting some funny stuff lately. Like, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you're better. I love it because it's true. You know,
I love it.
I tend to be like that too.
Me too.
If I have a session, then I want to like fix everybody else, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, all right, dude, like, relax.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's partly because, you know, you become aware of something.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, everybody else should too.
Yeah.
All these people on the show, they've been like, yeah, because you don't want to fix yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, you're right.
It was interesting that, you know, when you send me the thing, the pre-interview preparation sheet, and you said, okay, let me talk about the why I'm doing this.
Yes.
And you said, this is out of fear. I found that very interesting. And I applaud you for saying, okay, look, this scares the shit out of me, but you know what? I'm putting myself out there. Yeah. And you do it so well. I'm surprised. That surprised me. It surprised me to read that you were scared of doing something like this.
Tremendously scared. I was an actor for a long time, and my biggest fear was always like self-promotion. There was something around that, and any kind of criticism would just
super
buckle
sensitive.
Me. Yeah, like it would kill me. You know, it would be the one person after a show, like 99 people would say, "Great show." One person would say, "Hey,"
and that's the one you remember.
Like, what the fuck? Why didn't you like it? Why didn't you like it? You know, maybe he just didn't feel like saying anything.
Yeah,
but so yeah, it was really hard. So this has been an exercise in that, for sure. Yeah. So that's why I sent it out, because, you know, each time I go, and there's always this voice in my head that's like, who are you to do this? What do you have to say? That's,
oh my God, you know, I can't tell you how many times.
This critic.
I relate to that.
Yeah. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I hear you, but no, I'm going to put it out. And there's perfectionism thing comes in, like it's not quite right or this or that. And so all this stuff is like, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to put it out. I'm just going to put it out. And it's been such a great thing to just do that.
Yeah.
And have it not be perfect, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad. So that's why I did that.
It's awesome.
But so like, I think you have this aura, and you're a yoga teacher, and, you know, so take us back a little bit, right? So were you always sort of called to these kind of alternative ways of being in the world, maybe? I mean...
well, I was born an expat. I mean, I'm Palestinian. I have a Jordanian passport, but I was born in Kuwait. And being born in Kuwait, you don't get a nationality. So I was always an expat. So
you don't get a nationality?
You don't get a nationality in Kuwait.
Why?
Me and all my siblings were born in Kuwait. None of us are Kuwaiti. Part of it at the time... First of all, they don't give out nationalities like that, number one. Number two, we're Christian. It's a Muslim country, so they definitely weren't giving it to Christians. I know of a couple Christian Palestinian families that ended up getting the nationality, but those are by far the exception. So, born and raised in Kuwait, and then graduated high school in Kuwait and went to the U.S. for university. I was there for...
Where did you go?
University of Virginia.
Oh, right.
In Charlottesville, UVA, yeah. Call us the Wahoos. But I don't know what our mascot is. Okay. That's shameful. And I'm still in touch with all my friends from university on Facebook. So I see all of their Black Alumni Weekend. I say Black Alumni Weekend because I get to university and I'm not exactly sure who I fit with. Charlottesville at the time, we're talking about in 87. I mean, if what's going on in Charlottesville these days is bad, can you imagine how it was back in 87? So I show up as this, I'm not white, I'm not black. Even on the application, I didn't know what to check because it says, what's your race? And it had white, it had African, it had Asian, it had European, it had African.
You're like, can I put
it had
another
Caucasian.
Box? Yeah.
It had, I remember Caucasian. I was like, I'm not technically... Middle East is in Asia. Does that make me Asian? I'm not Asian. I'm not white. So I was always other. So I get to university. And I'm automatically absorbed into and embraced by the minorities.
Right.
So of course I was a black girl at university.
Right.
All my friends were black. When they'd come to me, they'd say, so what part of New York are you from? They automatically assumed I was either Latina, Puerto Rican, or black. There was
I
no
thought
other.
you were from New York too, yeah.
Yeah. So I got a lot of that. And then my roommate ends up being this white hick country girl from the southwest of Virginia who'd never left her town, let alone Virginia, let alone the States.
Right.
And her roommate is this Arab chick from Palestine who lives in Kuwait. So she was freaked out by me. She didn't know what to do with me.
Wait, another Kuwait?
No, I was her roommate.
Oh. I thought you were talking about a total another person. I'm like, that's strange.
She looked at me like,
yeah,
what the hell? Like, where are you from? Like,
right.
Where you're from? Where?
Yeah,
I got that.
Oh, God bless.
Is that a Bible? Yeah, I said, but it's in Arabic. What's Arabic?
So Palestine, born in Kuwait.
Yeah,
from Palestinian parents.
Palestinian parents,
but Jordanian passport.
Yes.
And then you spent your whole life in Kuwait before going over to UVA.
To UVA, yeah.
Okay. So was that part of it? Did that kind of like identity thing mess with you at all, you think?
Always.
Yeah.
I had an identity crisis. An identity crisis, but not so much so. Because when you're Palestinian, it is so engraved in your very soul. It is so instilled in our blood that you're Palestinian. Like... That is everything. Your identity is as a Palestinian. We used to have these conversations in high school, in the family and among friends saying, so, okay, of the three things that we consider ourselves to be, which is Arab, Palestinian, and Christian, rate them in order of importance to you. And we'd have these discussions at home and with friends all the time because this was like all our identity. Like, what are we first? Are we an Arab first? Are we a Christian first? Or are we a Palestinian first? And it was always Palestinian, Christian, Arab.
Yeah.
Or Arab, Christian. I can't remember. But Palestinian was always number one. So that identity, I couldn't escape it if I wanted to.
Right.
You know, and that's what we're talking about. My mom and my grandmother and my that's the lineage.
Got it.
And I'm carrying all of that. Yeah. I realize in part of all of this breaking free from the family that a big part of the luggage that I'm carrying is that Palestinian psyche, which is our number one is always, you have to always have security. So always make sure you're covered. Always. I was never a risk taker because I was so shit scared of not being stable and secure and having enough money and making sure I have a roof over my head because my grandparents lived through 3 wars, my parents lived through 2, and I lived through 1. So it's a legacy. I like saw it unfold. So I was like stability, security, stability, security. So me quitting my job a couple of years back and now like not having stability and security has rocked my world.
Wow, yeah.
It's shaken me to the very core and it's brought up a lot of stuff.
I'm sure.
But I'm realizing that this is like old antiquated baggage. I'm ready to offload. I'm ready to live now and kind of say, you know what? I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know where I'm going to end up and be okay with that.
It's so crazy how this is working out because this episode I just did, she's talking exactly about this.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes family, but it's sometimes culture. And so that is, of course, according to her, it can come into the system, the family system. And like, what is the Palestinian experience then? So is it because I want to ask because we grew up as like the only thing I knew was Israel and Palestine have this ongoing strife, right?
Yes.
And I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I just know that there's like something. But what's the experience of
I mean, it goes back where we can get into the history and the politics. That's a whole other episode. Yeah, it's super heavy. Yeah. But suffice it to say, Palestine was always there. Israel was a creation by the Brits and the West after the Holocaust. Because they wanted to give the Jews a place and the Jews lobbied for Palestine because that's the promised land and this is the land of Israel that we were biblically promised and we lay claim to this land and blah, blah, blah. Right. So there's a massive, massive conspiracy going on between the US, the Brits, Europe, the Jews, blah, 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 blah. And to give them a land, but they always say it's a land for people with no land or something like that. Yeah. Anyway. so they came in. The Palestinians are already there,
Yes.
and this land was handed over. And I'm simplifying this. I'm like, this is like Israel Palestine for dummies. I'm not
Right.
saying you're a dummy, but this is like as simplified as it gets.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's been going on since 47, 48,
Yeah.
and the Palestinians were displaced. My family was one of them, and not so much displaced. My grandparents on my dad's side stayed in Palestine. My mom's parents had moved because my grandfather was working in Kuwait. So he first got to Kuwait. The family followed him. My father went off to university in Beirut. After that, he went to Kuwait for a job. We're talking back in 60. My mom was there, I think, in 65, 64. No, she was there younger. And my dad got there in 67. They ended up meeting, getting married, blah, blah, blah. And the rest is history.
Okay.
But they went to Kuwait because Kuwait back in 67 was a desert. There was nothing there. And the Palestinians were a big community in Kuwait who helped make Kuwait what it was.
Oh.
They were the workers. They were the brains. Just like
Interesting.
now these days, everybody goes for the Americans and the whatever. When you wanted to recruit that back then, it was you bring the Palestinians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the Palestinians really helped build Kuwait. We were born there. Kuwait was always home. I didn't know any other home. And then the Gulf War hit and it's no longer home.
God. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot for you.
It's a lot.
For someone who has to be stable.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah,
of,
right?
like
Yeah.
unknowns there.
Yeah.
So then after that, you said happened in university when you were
Yeah,
in
that was
university.
when I was in university.
Damn. And so then you
I was
no
literally
longer-
at university watching the news, watching them bombing,
Holy
where I
shit.
just had my senior prom.
No.
Yeah. Like they
Damn.
just bombed the Sheraton. We just had our senior prom at the Sheraton. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, okay, talk about an identity crisis. This was my line. I'm Palestinian. I have a Jordanian passport. I'm born in Kuwait. I'm studying in the States. My parents live in Cyprus. I'm not sure where home is. Like, which of the above is home? What's home?
Right.
All of it. That was the first time I was faced with that.
Right.
Like, okay, what is home?
Yeah.
And you see all of these American kids around you. Every Thanksgiving, they're driving home.
Yeah.
And home is where they were born. Home is where they go back to.
Yeah.
My home all of a sudden was like, wow, I have no idea where home is. Now all of a sudden home is Cyprus. Not a bad place.
Yeah. How do you feel talking about this now? Is it hard to talk about, or is
No,
it,
it's
so you've dealt with that?
yeah.
I mean, it's been
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
That's just such a it just kind of hurt. It hurts to hear that because it's sad.
Yeah.
Like, damn. I mean, you must have been hard to watch that
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
especially being in the U.S.
Yes.
Like, oh gosh, so it was like 91 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then, so you're the first person who's like always been an expat on the
Yeah.
show.
Always been an expat.
You're-
I mean, I've gone back to Palestine and visited. People always say, "Oh, so where were you born in Palestine?" I wasn't. I wish I was, but I'm not.
You can go back and it's
It's not easy.
yeah.
I can go back with a Jordanian passport with a visa, but you don't stamp the visa on the passport.
I
You don't have an
see.
Israeli passport, a stamp on your passport,
Okay.
because then you come into any other Arab country and you get a lot of slack.
Right.
So we get it stamped on another piece of paper. I've been
Right.
there. When we were younger,
So
we
you go
had
through
gone.
Jordan?
No, we fly straight into the airport
Okay.
in Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then go through that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a visa and it takes a lot of pulling strings. And then you don't want to know anything about the experience at the airport, getting in and getting out. It's the most humiliating experience.
Really?
Oh, they know you're Palestinian. And I went with my dad. So he says, "Where were you born?" Nazareth. So they're like, "Nazareth, where do you live?" "My father's in Jerusalem." "Who's your father?" "Why are you here?" "Where do you blah, blah, blah." That interrogation can go
man.
anywhere from 2 hours to a couple of days if they want.
Oh, jeez, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on the mood, depending on what he wants to pick on, depending on
Yeah.
your name,
Yeah.
depending on, "Oh, you're Christian. Is that a good thing today?" "I don't know." "Oh, you're a Muslim." "I don't know." Which is the,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
That's horrible. And
Yeah.
then his parents are still there, or
Well, then they were there until they died. They died
see.
there. Yeah.
that's a lot. It's a lot of
It's a
stuff.
lot.
It's a lot of heavy, and I can see
Yeah.
why like that session was good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
there's so many things pulling it, and I've had a similar experience, like being the oldest. Not at all this identity thing with home, but feeling like I always should be providing and should be going home and should be there and should be doing this stuff. And I recently just like I always go back for twice a year I always go back, and this time I said I'm just going to travel by myself. I'm just going to do my own thing. It was so hard to say that, because they're like, and I realized like, okay, like one of the things that May-Britt said in the family constellation was actually we're the only species on the planet that, like, when the young is old enough to fly, that we feel like we have to go back and take care of the family. Wow. No other species does that. You think of like a bird, as soon as you're going to fly, it's like, go, lion, whatever, every single one, except for humans, we have this thing like, we got to go back and take care of the family and stuff. And actually what they really want, she says, is that for us to be independent. And once we're really free and independent, then they're free also. So I'm sure it's probably good for your mom to have that conversation too. It was. It was very, and it wasn't harsh. I expected it to be a lot longer. I mean, I wasn't planning it, but I got there. I was in a really chilled mood. Good. And I went and said, I think we need to, in Cyprus. Okay. I said, okay, I think we need to have a talk. Let's go sit outside. And she was like, okay. And we were always sitting outside and we're always having our coffee and playing cards. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary until I closed the door. And she was like, oh, this is a closed door discussion. I said, no, it's nothing major, but we need to clear the air. There's been a lot. Yeah. And I've realized that I've been carrying this weight, and I realized that the weight is you. And I don't want to carry the weight because I love you, and I don't want that to turn into resentment. But you've got to let me go now. Just enough. It's always about, I don't want to disappoint. I want to take care. I want to make sure you're okay. I want to make sure you need to get off my back. Wow. But it was said just like that, super calm, super chilled, like not, and she was like, I'm heavy. I'm on your back. Like it was like, what? I said, yeah, Mom, you are. And I gave her a few examples of stuff that she says without even realizing it. It's just this, I'm just going to get my 2 cents worth in there. It's like, you refrain, block, You got to do family. So it was really good. It was all of a 5-10 minute talk. Yeah. And she said, I'm sorry. I will never say that again. I'm so sorry. I will never, blah, blah, blah. It was super apologetic. I said, and I love you. And she said, I love you. I said, we're good? She said, we're good. Oh, that's sweet. It was literally like that. And it was like, okay, let's get on with our lives now, Wow. So it was good. So have you always been on this path, or is this something you just found later? Because now you're in Dubai. How long have you been in Dubai? 20 years. Wow. Yeah. So yeah. That's, and this is like, talk about expat. This is like the expat place. I mean, this is the expat place. So what is the stat, like the general accepted stat of like expat versus local percentages? The local in Dubai, I believe the locals make up less than 30%. Yeah. 30, something like that. There's over 200, there's 202 nationalities, I believe. Yeah. The vast majority are Asian. Then the next largest is, so Asian subcontinent, Indian, Pakistani, blah, blah. And then I believe the next largest expat community is Arab. And then it goes into the Europeans. Yeah. A lot of expats. Yeah. Maybe some Africans as well. And what made you move here? Having been in Cyprus I was there for 6 years. And loved my time there. But you don't want to be in Cyprus right after university. No? I mean, I got a degree in sports medicine. To end up in Cyprus, what on earth do you do with that in Cyprus? Because there's nothing to do. But it's an awesome place, right? It's an awesome place. I love Cyprus. An island right in the Mediterranean. I love it. I love everything about Cyprus. Yeah. So I really enjoyed my time while I was there. And I had really good friends. We were always out on the boat, or we were up in the mountains. It was, nice. It was always a good time.
But then after 5-6 years there, it's like, okay, and now what? So I had a job that I loved, blah, 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 but it wasn't really going to take me anywhere. And I had an uncle here who said, okay, you really need to come and check out Dubai. Dubai is so happening.
Cool.
It's the next place to be. So I did. I came and visited and I fell in love with it. We're talking about 99.
99. Yeah, I was going to say. So what was it like in 99?
Dubai was even less than what Iraq is now.
And Iraq is the
Iraq is like
the emirate that we're in, which is northern.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot we didn't say where we were. Yeah,
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
We're in the northern part, so we're about an hour drive from Dubai.
Yes, northernmost emirate of
yeah,
the
and it's
Emirates.
very chill here. There's mountains and stuff like that. That's fine.
Wine?
Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
And so, what was it like coming here in the late 90s?
It was. You could sense that there's a buzz. You can sense this place is starting to move. You know, but it was
no
tiny.
Burj Khalifa, no Burj Al Arab.
No,
none of
that. The place to go in Dubai was the Crown Plaza Trader Vic's. That was our place. We were regulars. And lucky for me, I've always loved salsa music. So that suited me to a T.
Oh.
And then there was the furthest beach was what is now just before Internet City. There was a Chicago beach over there. That was the beach to go to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was the golf club. The Creek Golf Club, that was there back then.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about literally, you can count them on one hand.
No way.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because now there's so many places.
There's so many places. It's buzzing.
And like what was the friendship like? The circles like back then?
It was,
must have been tight,
it's
right?
like, how when you go out in Iraq, everybody knows everybody.
That's so awesome.
And everybody knows you. So when you go to Muse, hey sir, how are you? They know what you're drinking. They know how you like it. They know.
Oh man.
That was Dubai. Trader Vic's, we would go in and the regular, cool, the regular.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And what were you doing? What was your job then?
I started out with a job at a recruitment company.
Uh-huh.
And while I was in the job at the recruitment company, Emirates Bank had sent in this job description for a position they were looking to fill.
Yeah.
And I applied. And they were looking for a salesperson, preferably. This was exactly what the ad said. We're looking for young, female, Arabic-speaking salespeople. No training, no experience necessary. Training will be provided.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I thought this is switched off.
It's okay. Emirates Bank, you said, or Emirates Airline?
Emirates Bank.
Was there an Emirates Airline back then?
I believe they came later. I want to say Emirates Airlines came out in 2003, 2000, something like that. I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So then you got the banking job.
So I got a banking job of all things.
You were doing sports medicine.
I was in sports medicine, but I mean, sports medicine it's not a very easy field to break into, and we're talking about 99 Dubai.
Right.
So I had been doing sales in Cyprus, and I came here saying, okay, I've done sales, I've done recruitment, I've done blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I took the job was because I saw this opportunity. It was giving me more money. I figured sales is sales. And I ended up calling my dad. I was like, what do you think? It was selling equities. It was selling investment products.
Okay.
Me, with a sports medicine degree, working in a bank selling investments. There was like zero correlation between anything. Nothing clicked. But I only took the job because my dad said, that's a very good, it's a secure job. It's stability. It's money. It's, it's doing what's right, doing the right thing. So I took the job.
Right.
And I did it for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I got married.
Oh.
And I moved to Dubai. I moved to Abu Dhabi for 8 months.
Oh.
And I kept working there for a while and then I stopped working. Then we moved back to Dubai and that's when I left banking and I started working with a friend of mine in publishing. The employment work history that I've had here in Dubai was a very unconscious one. This was not at all me sitting down to say, all right, let me connect. I think that's what drove me towards the whole spiritual thing because I was very disconnected.
It sounds like you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in a way you were just kind of floating through.
That's it.
And things
That's
came your way.
That's it.
And you took it.
And I took it.
And so when did that change? When did you become, because now I just took your awesome yoga class.
Yeah.
Amazing, by the way.
Really?
The space you set and the way it was funny because you said put an intention in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I love that, so it was like, and my intention was, because I always like to show off in yoga, which is so anti-yoga. Like, it's not a competition, but I'm like, I gotta be the best yoga person. And I'm like, just for today, like, just be, don't fucking show off, okay? Because I was like, I want to show off for Rana because she thinks I'm a good yoga student. This is what I'm thinking. So cool. But then you said a couple of times like, "Oh, Derek, good," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." So I'm like,
that's so funny.
So I'm like, "Oh damn it!" Like, that was my intention. It's funny because when you set an intention, and you realize sometimes like you don't do it, it's actually more of a lesson. It's like, oh wow, that's a big one.
Yes.
So it was hard for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I really appreciated that part.
Good, I'm glad.
Because I felt like that was there for a reason to kind of like let go. And I felt great today.
Yeah.
So what happened then? Like, what happened from this floating thing and the responsibility?
I floated for a long time. I floated through my marriage as well.
Okay.
That lasted 9 years. I just literally floated through that. And I knew I wanted out from about year 4, year 5. But I kept on going for 9 years because that's the thing to do. You do the right thing. You don't, I would hear from my mom, this is not like buying a new shoe. You don't just try it once and you don't like it and you throw it out. I was like, Mom, I've been trying this shoe for 9 years. It's not fitting. It's not fitting. I need to let it go now. So I floated through that. And it was really after my divorce that I was like, okay, something's got to give. But the sequence was I separated in November. I turned 40 in December. And then I got divorced in January. So that was a lot to hit me like boom, 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 right after each other. And to find yourself at 40 kind of like, okay, now what?
Yeah. And so that, you think after that, then you became more focused? Did you take like a yoga training course or something? Or?
No, I did my yoga training years before. I did my yoga training while I was married.
Ah.
Yeah.
And were you always practicing as a teacher?
I started yoga in 2003. I got married in 2001. I started yoga with a teacher here in Dubai in 2003. And it started, I had done a couple yoga classes before in Cyprus, but in Cyprus I had gone, there was this Indian lady and she had this really dark, dim place, only little candles and stuff. And I didn't relate to her at all, but I thought, okay, I'm intrigued. Something's calling me about this, but you're not the one who's going to teach me. So I found this American lady here and I fell in love with her practice. But it's initially for me, it started out as a physical thing.
Yeah.
She was teaching Ashtanga.
Oh.
And I connected. I loved the practice. And my body changed and I saw, and all of a sudden we became really, really good friends. Like kind of what happened with me and Sarah. Same thing with me and Lisa. And we started a book club together. Well, she started a book club and I was part of this book club. So it opened me up into a really beautiful group of people. And most of them were yogis and vegans and vegetarians. And so that's really where it kind of got nurtured.
And what did you take for your yoga training? How did you do that? You did it here?
I went to India. No, I went to India.
Where?
Beautiful. In a place in Tamil Nadu called Kannur. It's a tiny little village in Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu.
Yeah. And that's the southernmost state. Yeah. And the city is called Kannur. Connor.
And so what was that like? Did you have to go like for a certain number of
I was there
days?
For a couple months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but now when I look back, a couple of months is really nothing. And now a lot of the yoga teacher trainings that are being offered are these 4-week, 5-week thing, come get your 200-hour, blah, blah, blah. And it scares me what's being put out. Because just because you're taught how to do a few postures does not make you a teacher.
So tell me then, what makes you a teacher?
A lot of... I consider myself lucky because I think my training was very much complemented by my sports medicine degree. So I already had a little bit of the background and the knowledge as to how to practice carefully and mindfully. Somebody who's going to sit up in front of a class and lead you through a lot of postures is leading an exercise class, not a yoga class. So there has to be a deeper understanding. And I went through the same thing. When I came back, I was this inexperienced, and you have to start somewhere. So yeah, you start off and you stumble through, and you kind of try to use the right lingo and to sound like you know what you're talking about. But a lot. I've been teaching since 2006, so a good 13 years.
Is it true that yoga was originally done to help people meditate, so because they didn't get stiff when they were meditating? Is that true?
Well, technically speaking, there's 8 limbs of yoga. That's where Ashtanga comes from. Ashta means 8.
Okay.
But what Ashtanga yoga is as a style is different to the Ashtanga, which is talking about the 8 limbs of yoga. It's like talking about the 10 commandments.
Okay.
There's 8 limbs.
8 limbs would be like 8 offshoots of yoga?
No, 8, like the 10 commandments make up part of the teachings of Christ. These 8 limbs are the explanation as to what the practice is all about.
Okay.
So there are 8, literally, if you think of yoga as an octopus, each of the arms is a limb, and you have to be practicing them all to really be a true yogi. That's we're talking traditionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yoga is from India, right?
Yes. This is very ancient Hindu. Yes.
And all these words, the postures, they're Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Sanskrit is the language of
it's
Hindi.
I don't think it's used anymore. It's an ancient.
That's the same language they use in Buddha Dharma. Do they use Sanskrit? No, it's called Pali.
It's called, I thought it was called something
Pali,
else.
anyway.
Yeah.
Those 8 limbs.
Yeah.
Is Vinyasa one of them?
No. So what the 8 limbs are, the first one, they're the yamas and niyamas. The yamas and niyamas are exactly like the 10 commandments. The yamas are about your, I believe it's the social do's and don'ts. And the niyamas are the personal do's and. So it's kind of like you don't steal. It's almost, don't steal, don't covet, against gluttony, celibacy, non-harming, cleanliness. So there are all these teachings that you kind of have to embrace and live in order to prepare yourself to then, the 3rd limb is asana. Asana, which is the postures.
Oh. So it's not, you don't even go to postures first. That's interesting.
So this is in preparation. This is about, look at your body, look at how you eat,
Amazing.
Look about how you use your words. Yeah, it's a way of life. That's why they say yoga is a way of life. It's not just about I practice some of this, and then I meditate. That makes me a yogi. If you're really a true yogi, you're practicing all 8 limbs of this practice, this very rich practice. Wow. So the yamas and niyamas are do's and don'ts. And I'd be lying if I told you I know them off heart. I did at one point, but I haven't discussed them for so long.
Is it a progression then? So you would start?
No, you can look at the yamas. The teachings are like non-stealing, non-harming, So there are teachings that you don't steal, but it's about really becoming mindful. Non-harming. Non-harming means watch how you use your words, not just don't kill somebody. Your words, how do you treat animals? Are you mindful about living beings, reverence, etc., And cleanliness and celibacy and
all those other ones.
Yeah, so those are the first 2 limbs. And then 3rd is the postures. Mm-hmm. So then you practice the postures. After the postures, number 4 is pranayama.
Breathing.
So breathing. That comes after the asanas.
Wow.
Yeah. So the asanas are there to really get you in shape in order for you to then be able to learn how to breathe properly. Amazing. And if you notice, I'm huge on my breathing in class. I'm much more about the breathing than I am about the postures. I'd much rather see you back off a pose and catch your breath and find the rhythm of the breath, rather than see you holding a super sexy posture and then you're sacrificing the breath.
Yes, I got that. That was good. You gave a lot of good cues.
Yeah.
I would notice myself. You'd say, "How's your breathing?" I'd say, "Oh, forgot about that."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You forget about it because we get caught up thinking this is what the practice is about, but it's not.
And then after?
So after the pranayama comes pratyahara, which is controlling your senses. So this is about if you're in a really crowded, if you're sitting in the middle of Times Square, how to be able to control your senses so you're not overwhelmed by what's going on around you. It's controlling your hearing, really getting control of what you're taking in from the outside world. And that is in order to prepare you for, I think it's called dhyana, then it's called, where are we? We're yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, or dhyana is number 7. I can't remember the word for number 6. It's concentration, then meditation, then enlightenment.
Oh, wow.
So, and concentration is doing practices like focusing on a flame, but really, and they take you through these teachings of how to to bring your mind into single-minded focus.
I love this. So did you do all these things in that?
Yeah.
In that two months. So was it hard to take that time off, or you just said,
I wasn't working. I had quit a job
okay.
and things weren't very happy at home. And I thought, I've got to do this for myself. If I don't do this for myself now, I'm never going to get this opportunity.
Were you always called to yoga, you think?
But yeah, something was calling me. And I had been practicing with Lisa, and I was already doing a lot of reading, and this thing was calling me louder and louder.
Cool.
Yeah.
And is this place still around that you went to?
Yes.
So we could put it in notes if anyone wants to
absolutely.
go.
It's an Ayurveda. It's actually an Ayurveda retreat in Tamil Nadu.
Awesome.
It's breathtaking.
Really?
Right in tea country. It's beautiful.
That's so awesome. Now I can see a lot.
Yeah.
And would you say this is your thing now? Yoga is your passion. It's what you want to do. And
yoga is my thing in terms of, ever since I found yoga, it's whether or not I practice regularly, and I find it very hard, and it's actually exactly the opposite of how it should be. The more you teach, the more you need to have your own practice. But the more I teach, the less I find time for my own practice, and that's a cop-out. It's a cop-out as I'm saying it. Because there should be nothing to take me away from my practice, because in doing my own practice, I'm able to give of myself more in my classes. When I don't have the practice, this is very hard to do from a really centered, generous giving place.
Makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah.
And Mysore
is the place
Ashtanga?
Yes.
Yoga.
It's the birthplace of Ashtanga.
Birthplace of Ashtanga.
Ashtanga as the physical Ashtanga practice.
Okay.
Because when I applied, I wanted to go to an Ashtanga retreat when I was looking for my teacher training, because that's how I started and that's what I was called by. I loved the practice. And when I wrote to this place, so you guys teach Ashtanga? And they said, yes. But what we learned in terms of asana was not Ashtanga at all. It had no relation to Ashtanga, but we learned about the 8 limbs of yoga. That's Ashtanga.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But I'm confused. So why would it be that physical style has the same name as the...
It's a good question. I don't know if they've based it on that, because Ashtanga was coined by Patanjali, who's considered the father of yoga. And he was the one who
You're giving me a lot here.
Yeah. But don't ask me to go into that deep, because I'm going to start getting names mixed up. Because before Patanjali, there was Krishnamacharya, I believe. But Patanjali is a student, I believe.
Don't worry, I'll put links.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and research so I can get my story straight too.
So we have a lot here. How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Because I'll talk a little bit more about the yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're clearly lighting up when you're talking about this. It's like, and it's good. Why is it then like there's like these different styles of yoga? If there's just one yoga and yogi, it sounds like a lot like Buddha Dharma, actually, this process. Yeah. Maybe they're connected in some way that I don't know, but
I connect a lot to Buddha's Dharma as well.
Do you meditate?
I do. Not regularly, but I do.
Have you heard of Dharma Talks?
Absolutely.
The podcast?
Absolutely.
Love them.
Absolutely.
Have you ever done like a meditation retreat?
I've done a Vipassana retreat.
You have?
Yes.
Where?
Here in the UAE.
They have them in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
I don't know that I didn't do mine in Iraq at the time. It was Ajman.
Oh, 10 days?
10 days.
Silent?
Silent.
Damn.
It was the hardest thing I've ever
That's
done.
what everybody says the same thing.
But I was actually, now that I know I'm not going to be traveling because of my dog not being well,
Mm-hmm.
I was actually researching where I can go for at least a 3-day silent retreat. At least a 3-day silent retreat.
Here?
Here, India, like just here. I don't want to go too far. And I know they happen in India all the time. If I can find something at this time, I think that's going to be my little getaway.
For the Eid holiday?
I would kill to be able to do that for Eid, yes.
Me too.
Just 3 days of silence.
Yeah, I'm going to India for Eid.
Are you?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, I'm flying into Delhi.
Okay.
Because I was going to do something in Rishikesh.
Nice.
I was doing a
Rishikesh
retreat.
is breathtaking.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I started looking more. And then after these podcasts, I'm like, I think I want to go to Goa.
Yeah.
And Sarah's like, well, it's rain. It's like beginning of monsoon. I'm like, I don't care. Like, better for me. I'd rather have.
Okay.
I love the rain and less people.
Nice.
And
nice.
so I might actually go to Goa. But I don't know. I have the flight to Delhi.
Right.
And it's kind of both are. It's about the same travel.
Yeah.
So I wish I had a flight to Mumbai instead, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So maybe you can recommend something. Yeah, but I wanted to do a retreat.
Yeah.
Like a mini retreat. Vipassana would be great. So again, like, why is that a thing now? Like, there's different styles. I don't get that.
I mean, just like there would be different lineages of just about any philosophy or teaching, no?
Okay.
If you look at, I'm not comparing yoga to any religion, but if you look at any religion, there's different people that have different understandings, decide to break off and put their twist on things, So they come from different lineages. The Iyengar lineage is very, very etched in stone. There's no
flexibility.
veering off the one way to do things.
Is that what is the one that's Bikram? What is Bikram about?
Bikram is hot yoga. That's when they do it in a heated room.
Bikram means hot?
No, Bikram is the name of the founder of this style of yoga.
But Bikram has a set number of postures that
That's
you do.
it. It's 26 postures.
Right.
You do 26 postures twice. So the first posture twice, second posture twice. You do 26 and that's it. Anywhere you go in the world, that's going to be what you practice.
Yeah. And that's, do you get pissed off at like people who do like this?
I don't get pissed off. I get people asking me that all the time. Like, you know what? I did Bikram and I loved it. What do you think about Bikram? If Bikram ticks your talk, more power to you.
Yeah. I got
Bikram doesn't do it for me.
No?
Because when I practice, my body heats up naturally.
Yeah.
So I don't need the heated room.
Yeah.
And then there's some times where, frankly, I don't want to be heating up. I want to practice yin yoga, which is super grounding. I don't even stand up. I could be on the floor for 2 hours, but I come out of yin yoga feeling like I'm reborn. Because yin yoga gets into your fascia. We do, but I mean, there's the practice just before this one, like last Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday or Monday, was full on yin. I sensed the energy in the room. People came in and they were like, I said, how are you? I'm really tired. And this one, I'm having a really rough week. And I said, you know what? I got what you need.
Do you go in with a plan every time when you do your class?
I go in with a general idea, but it can change like that. I've gone in sometimes feeling so full on power. Like today, we're going to go hardcore. We're going to do everything. And I see the looks on their faces, and I've had to change from coming in like powered up because that's my energy to kind of having to, whoa, I still have to bring this down. And I'll go into a yin session and they'll all come out of there like, thank you. So that to me is part of being a good teacher as well. And this is not to toot my own horn, and that took many, many years to be able to connect. When you can connect to people and really get a sense, or even if you're doing a full-on class, to have people comfortable in your class to ignore what you're saying and listen to their own inner, voice. My voice is saying, I'm not feeling these goddamn planks today. So I'm going to do a child's pose, damn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love to see that in my class.
Yeah.
I love to see that in my class.
Right.
As opposed to, I'd much rather see that than see somebody who's so caught up in their head, pushing through, and I'm like, that looks like it just feels like shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. So where do you see it going? Your yoga practice? What do you want to do with it? And what do you want
I'd like
take
to
it?
see it grow, but I'm growing in very different directions in these last couple of years. I've been exploring a lot of different things and a lot of different modalities that it doesn't excite me as much to just teach asana. If I'm not bringing a lot more to my asana class, just teaching postures bores me now because it defeats the purpose. If you're not coming out of my class feeling like, I really appreciate that when I give a class, and I've had this happen numerous times, people breaking out into tears during Shavasana or during a pigeon pose because you're getting into your hips. This is where you store a lot of stuff. And if people are really listening to what I'm saying, and not just listening, but internalizing it for themselves, when I have somebody cry in class, that's when I feel like I've given the best yoga class of my life, because it's like, thank you. They got it. And the yoga was much deeper than just, oh man, my hips feel so good. It's, okay, something needed to come out, and that helped me release it.
What is it about the hips we store stuff?
The hips are related also to your sacral chakra. I know you were talking about this with
that was mine. That was
Yeah.
There was energy that needed to be brought in in there. There needs to be attention there.
Yes.
So the hips are the sacral.
The hips are the sacral chakra, and when you're opening up the hips, it's all about releasing.
Yeah.
The sacral chakra is all about the fluids in your body. So it's related
It's the water one, right?
It's the water.
Right.
Exactly. So when you open up your hips as well, there's a certain sense of, like fluidity as opposed to this rigidity. Yes. So yeah, that kind of like you feel circulation is flowing better. It's also related in the sacral chakra as our emotion center, your center of creativity. So if you're blocked there, doing something like this is very hard.
Yes, it's reproductive
too,
organs,
right? Absolutely.
That's the creative energy.
Absolutely.
Because Sarah told me to go into water a lot.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
So I've been swimming every day.
Awesome.
It works.
Yeah.
I feel great when I go in the water. I'm like,
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think you're going to bring into the practice then?
I'm feeling very. I've been doing a lot of feminine energy work, which for some reason, all of last year, everything that I did after our retreat in Goa kind of was along that line without me planning it that way or without me even thinking that I think that's where I want to go. I went to this Shakti celebration day.
Shakti means what?
Shakti is the personification of the female
Okay.
Energy, and Shiva is the male, so it's Shiva and Shakti. They were doing a lot of work around the womb and and even the movements when you're doing anything Shakti, it's a lot of dance, but it's a lot of this kind of like flowy kind of stuff. Yeah. And it really releases stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, stuff around that, working with more women. I love teaching mixed classes. Don't get me wrong. I never want to stop teaching mixed classes, but there's something about working with women and getting women in touch with that divine, without sounding too cliche-ish, the inner goddess work. It really calls me because I've practiced it and I've experienced it, and I know what a difference it's made.
There you go.
So I'd love to bring that in. So I'm just being very open to. I think I'm going into learning mode now again.
Nice.
I'm being called to learn more, to study more.
Yeah. So, and it's also this time now, it's the Aquarian age.
Yes.
So it's do you know anything about that?
I read a lot about that. I read a lot because I'm very intrigued and I believe in it. And
I don't know anything really, except from this podcast, but people are saying like, what does it mean? Essentially, it's the Piscean was the male.
Right. And Aquarius is a very feminine, creative. That's why you see a lot of the women uprisings around the world, the Me Too movement. It's all about women. You're seeing women coming up everywhere. The feminine is waking up.
Right. So it makes sense that you'd be into that now.
It's happening very
Yeah.
naturally,
Nice.
very organically.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think this is probably a good place to stop for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We did a lot. We could
Okay.
probably talk a lot more, but
Yes.
that's good. So it seems like, we went pretty deep into mother
Into a lot.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we just ended on the feminine. So I think
Awesome.
that's like a good bookend.
Awesome.
And for people, if they want to find you, you do regular classes. It's hard to find you online. Are you not online?
I did talk about having issues with self-promotion.
You do?
I do.
We have a lot in common.
I do.
First child thing?
Yeah. And you know what it is? It's, I've never ever been able to say, look, here's a picture of me doing this pose, come to my class, which is what practically every other teacher does. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm doing a headstand, or look at me, I'm doing the splits, or look at me, I'm doing a beautiful warrior two at the sunset by the beach, So I do put posts out there on Facebook.
Okay.
There's a link that's yoga in the Northern Emirates, which
Okay.
is where, most of the time I keep updated.
So you use Facebook mainly. Do you have a website?
No, not for yoga.
Okay.
That was another thing people were saying to me. Why don't you start a website? But again, very similar to what you said. Who am I and what do I have to say? And why would somebody want to come and read what I'd write? Because I always,
Right.
like you're talking, I've
Yeah.
always felt a book coming on. I'm like, but I know I have a lot to say, but who am I?
Yeah. Here's something that works for me. So I have 3 nieces, those little girls, you see them?
Uh-huh.
And so like it's just like my heart opens up every time, like anything, I cry every time I leave them. It's just so open.
Yeah.
They're not my kids, but I don't know
Yeah.
what it is about them.
Yeah.
Like so I had the same thing, but I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write it to them.
Uh-huh.
And it just came out
No
because
way.
it wasn't about me.
I
It
see.
wasn't about, it was like, here's what I want you to know about life.
Oh, wow.
And it just flowed and flowed and flowed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would work for you. If there's somebody like that, focusing out to that person.
The book, I feel like everything we talked about here and add tenfold. I feel like there's so much that I want to say, including everything that we've just talked about. You know what I mean? In terms of, it is partly my story, but through my story, it's the wisdom that I gained through all of that. But the story played an integral role in me coming to that wisdom. So it's almost like I wanna purge that story. But then again,
Give birth.
who am I and what? Yeah, but it's still in my head.
It's that Buddha thing. You know the story about the Buddha, right? And the enlightenment under the tree.
Yeah.
You've heard that one?
Yes.
Where the whatever the evil spirit, came up and said, "Who are you to sit here and get enlightened?"
Oh no. Okay.
That's like the famous enlightenment story. Under the Bodhi tree,
Yeah.
the day the Buddha became enlightened was, and that voice, that critic,
Yeah.
which I forget what it was,
Yeah.
but that spirit said, "Who are you to sit here?" And that's the Buddha put his hand on the earth
Uh-huh.
and just said, I'm here, or whatever he said, and then became enlightened with that. That's the the myth about it. But yeah, no, I get it, and
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Maybe it'll happen when it's right. I think, I mean, your class should be shared,
Thank you.
right?
Thank you.
You want to share it.
I do. I
So,
do.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's
Cool.
say we'll talk another time.
Awesome.
Rana, thank you so much.
Thank you. I loved it.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Enlightened Abroad. Have a great day wherever you are.